for a full day by a Supreme Court appointed SIT, or a Special Investigation Team. The entire investigation on whether he was complicit in the Gujarat 2002 riots happened under the Congress government, the UPA. The CBI was entrusted with the investigation. This was, of course, the same CBI that was called the Congress's caged parrot by the Supreme Court. The Congress had no love lost for Modi. Sonia Gandhi had called him a maut ka saudagar in the 2007 run-up to the elections. The UPA had lobbied foreign governments to not grant Modi a visa to travel to UK and the United States. It was unprecedented. No Indian party has collaborated with foreign governments to besmirch a chief minister elected by Indian voters in this way, viewers. In short, there was every incentive for the Congress to send Modi to jail. But the Supreme Court monitored SIT, couldn't find evidence against Modi, not a shred. Last year, in fact, the Supreme Court pulled up several activists for framing Modi. Some of the activists, viewers, are featured in the BBC documentary, and their SC-branded false testimonies have been used to suggest Modi is guilty of conspiring to kill Muslims in the post-Godhra riots in Gujarat in 2002. As if that wasn't enough, the BBC then also dredged up an intelligence report prepared by British High Commission team of diplomats to indict Modi. The report that was marked restricted was never released or shared by the UK Foreign Office. Remember, viewers, remember, this was not a secret report. It was a merely restricted one. So by the admission of the British government, it wasn't of great significance. Interestingly, the British Foreign Office at the time was led by Jack Straw. Yes, the same Jack Straw who faked intelligence on Iraq to trigger the nation's invasion, which led to the massacre of thousands of innocent Muslims. Has anyone ever tried Jack Straw? Has a documentary been made on Jack Straw? Viewers, no. He's been given a free pass. He sits and pontificates with Indian journalists, viewers, and talks about the complicity of Modi. Think about it, viewers, think about it. The centre now, rightly or wrongly, in my opinion, wrongly, has banned the two-part BBC film suggesting that it was spreading fake propaganda and it had the potential to reopen wounds afresh and trigger communal violence. The government presently, the NDA government, has done what the UPA government had done, viewers, soon after it came to power in 2004. At that time, another Gujarat 2002 award-winning documentary called The Final Solution was banned by the then CBFC. Viewers, the UPA backed the ban. A few months later, under pressure, it reversed the ban. But when, viewers, the ban was invoked, it was also invoked on the same grounds, that that particular documentary could spark communal tensions. But viewers, an ecosystem comprising of the usual suspects wants to screen the film. Self-styled woke students from the left across JNU, Jadavpur and Jamia Millia University believe that the Supreme Court has got it wrong. BBC's documentary is the gospel. It's the truth. Of course, viewers, a large number of opposition parties have also said that the BBC documentary is the absolute truth. Down south, at least two governments are thinking of airing this documentary that the BBC itself hasn't released in India. Rahul Gandhi himself, viewers, has come out and said that truth has a funny way of emerging, clearly indicating that he also doesn't trust the Supreme Court's judgment. Last night there were clashes in JNU as the students illegally screened the film. In Jamia, Left Student Union SFI organizers were detained for trying to screen a banned series without university's permission. Those are the visuals. Students clashed with the police and raised slogans of Inqilab Zindabad. Watch what transpired. Here's a small clip. Well, viewers, the Jamia VC, the Vice Chancellor, has warned the left body that no cost will they be allowed to disrupt peace on campus. Meanwhile, the clashes have triggered a bitter war of words. That's also been taking place in the backdrop between the BJP's spokespeople and, of course, viewers, opposition leaders. But, viewers, before we proceed, let me bring to you what the Supreme Court said in its false to their own knowledge. The falsity of their claims has been fully exposed by the SIT after a thorough investigation. In the name of protest petition, appellants was also indirectly questioning the decision rendered by the court in other cases. She was obviously doing so under dictation of someone. Who was this, viewers? This was one of the survivors of this particular riot. Contents of the protest petition are founded on the affidavits filed by those persons whose versions have been found to be replete with falsehoods. Who are these people, viewers? They find mention in the BBC documentary. Their word is accepted, even though the Supreme Court has said this. Timely corrective measures taken by the state government in right earnest. Repeated public assurances by the then Chief Minister Narendra Modi that guilty will be punished and to maintain peace. Beyond comprehension, to bear suspicion about the meeting of minds of named offenders and hatching of conspiracy by the state at the highest level as alleged, much less grave or strong suspicion as being the quintessence for sending the accused for trial for an offence of criminal conspiracy. The SIT had noted that inaction and negligence of the erring officials had been taken note of at the appropriate level, including by initiating departmental action against them. Very important, viewers. Such inaction or negligence cannot pass the muster of hatching of a criminal conspiracy. SIT has been able to collate materials indicative of the amount of hard work and planning of state functionaries in their attempt to control. Yes, SIT has been able to collate materials indicative of the amount of hard work and planning of state functionaries in their attempt to control the spontaneous evolving situation of mass violence. So here, viewers, the SIT has been cited by the Supreme Court and all the information that it had collated. This despite the handicap of administration, including the inadequate state police force required to be replenished with central forces and the army. Repeated appeals made by the then Chief Minister Narendra Modi publicly to maintain peace. So, viewers, here it was, the Supreme Court exonerating. It's not just the Supreme Court. The Magistrate Court in 2012 accepted SIT's final closure report. Viewers, had the UPA wanted, they could have gone up in appeal. Then, viewers, the Gujarat High Court upheld Magistrate Court's order, clean chit to Modi. SIT probe was monitored by the Supreme Court. Never forget this, viewers. In 2022, the Supreme Court upheld the Magistrate Court in the Gujarat High Court order. And Supreme Court said there was no pre-planned conspiracy behind the riots. That should have closed the chapter, but no, viewers. That hasn't happened. Whether it's Hyderabad Central University, whether it's JNU, whether it is Jamia, whether it is Kerala, where there was a screening by the DY, FY in the Thiruvananthapuram Law College, and viewers, Jamia University today. All these universities are going to believe not the Supreme Court, but the BBC. Why, viewers? Is it because they want to try, in the year India is hosting, is at the helm of the presidency of the G20, are they want to spark communal tensions? Is that the agenda, viewers? It's a fundamental question. Let's ask some of these questions. Remember, viewers, I have no problems with this documentary being screened. It should be, in fact. The truth will be apparent to any sensible individual. Viewers, what we have a problem with is that there is a lobby of interested parties that refuse to accept the Supreme Court's verdict. Viewers, a BBC documentary. Are we so woebegone that we now need the white man's thappa to tell us who is guilty in our country and who is not? Are we so shackled by our colonialist mindset that we can't trust our own institutions? That's the fundamental question. And I want to begin with columnist Anthony Katachurian. Anthony Katachurian, the Supreme Court, and I have gone into details of the Supreme Court verdict. Here it is. Has closed this matter by picking up the threads of some organization called the BBC. Loose threads. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to do?
Rahul, good evening and thank you for having me on.
Yes.
Rahul,
Go ahead.
You and I well know that there are two courts all over the world. There is the Supreme Court and the courts of the land, and on the other side you have the court of public opinion. Till now in the US even, people believe JFK was killed by the government, Elvis is alive and aliens are in the Nevada desert. So let them talk. You're quite right that why are we so influenced by a white person saying something? Let them say it. We can make our own documentaries proving what really did happen or what did not happen. But why is it that because it's the BBC that we are so shaken by it, we want to ban it, we want to throw stones against each other for it? Let us make a a Times Now documentary about the war crimes committed in Iraq by Tony Blair and George Bush. Let's see how they feel about it. Why are we as a nation so reactionary? Our country is greater than this. We are stronger than this. In Sweden, there are people burning the flag, but nobody is calling them anti-national or telling them to go to Pakistan because Sweden is greater than a flag. Likewise, our country is greater than any BBC documentary or conspiracy theory. We're bigger than that. So let us act grown up in 75 years of independence. Let us act mature. Okay, you've made a document.
Was actually bumped off by the CIA or the FBI, what have you, and you say that there are others who wonder even now if certain indisputable facts are actually disputable. But those people are lunatics. You usually characterize them as such. The BBC is not a lunatic organization. Surely, the BBC has an agenda. What's wrong in calling out that agenda, as the Indian government has done? Now remember, a very respectable filmmaker, many people said, in 2004, in fact in 2003, had made a documentary called The Final Solution. The UPA banned it for precisely the same reason. Satanic verses was banned in our country. I didn't hear the left coming out and saying, no, we all want to read the satanic verses. JNU is going to have a special reading session of the satanic verses. At that time, Anthony Katachurian, Salman Rushdie was declared a persona non grata. So he had to change his name from London to Las Vegas, to Ludhiana. And he in fact took on a Christian name, short of giving up his faith. So I don't understand why there are double standards at play. Is it because a group of people, I don't know, maybe you are above it, want Mr. Modi and India's fair name to be besmirched, and therefore you want this documentary to be spread? And don't forget that those were not the times when Facebook and this horrible device that contains WhatsApp was easily accessible to everybody. Just the other day, my mother told me that the person who was accused of peeing on a lady on a plane may not have been guilty because WhatsApp had cooked up a whole story about why. And she said, have you done this story? And I said, this is fake news. So people can get influenced. And when they get influenced, they get angry. We've seen it. The Brexit referendum was influenced. So was the electoral outcome in the United States of America. By the admission of their own press, do we want people to get influenced, angry, and then resort to violence, kill each other? Would you be responsible for that, Anthony Katachurian?
So you're quite right. Your examples are absolutely spot on. But here's a great irony, Rahul. The Congress party are complaining about Narendra Modi government banning something or the other, an insignificant BBC documentary. He's using the very legal tools that they had created. And as you quite rightly pointed out, they too were on banning sprees when it didn't suit them, and now they want to cry about banning when it does suit them.
So then you have to ask.
So the irony should not be lost here. But I'll give you one point.
So what is it that suits them? You've hit the nail on the head. Besmirching Modi for political game, fanning riots perhaps, so that they can go out and tell the world in the year that India is going to be hosting G20 nations because it is acquired the presidency, that India is not stable, that what we've been telling you is true, that minorities are treated like subhumans. Should we be playing into this nonsense?
Absolutely not, Rahul.
Well,
but what we should not be doing also is falling for...
And let me tell you, sir, that on January 6th, the US Capitol was stormed. Why? Because one person had access to a telephone and could say things over Twitter. You saw the damage. They nearly went in there and shot up the Speaker of the House, whose husband was, of course, attacked just recently, and they took in weapons into the equivalent of the US's parliament to shoot up the legislators. We don't want that here, do we? We don't. I am not for bans. Let me tell you, viewers, I'm not for bans. But sometimes certain situations call for desperate measures. I am not, once again, standing up for this ban.
But Rahul, may I come back to you just on that one point, please?
If Twitter was celebrated for kicking Trump out for that one tweet, why is Modi's government being hauled over the coals for taking a very, very legitimate measure? It's by the book, viewers. He hasn't cooked up any laws.
May I come back to you just on that point?
To save the peace. No, let's open this up. I think you made some important points. Let me get a view from the other side. Let me get in Ishkaran Bhandari. Mr. Bhandari, how do you respond to Anthony Katachurian, who says, it's okay. Why are we so insecure? How do you respond to him?
An objection to something you said when you say BBC is not full of lunatics. I think it's a wrong statement to make for two reasons. Because the sister of BBC is New York Times, and I read a food recipe on New York Times. They started a food recipe by saying, under the prime ministership of Modi, under the Hindutva bandwidth which is running the country, it is difficult to write about a food recipe without talking about Hindu nationalism. And New York Times editors allow that to be posted. Now, if in a food recipe you find Hindu nationalism and you blame Prime Minister Modi for an egg curry recipe, that shows the sanity of the left loonies which are running some of these old-time good institution, if they were ever good at the old time, before the social media exposed them. So firstly on that point. Now secondly on the other point, when this BBC documentary came out, I said it's an utter nonsense. The Indian courts have ruled on this issue. There was zero evidence, and this investigation was done at a time when Congress was in power. Let us not forget that. From 2004 to 2014, their prime target was Chief Minister of Gujarat. When they could find no evidence, the Supreme Court upheld all the judgments of the court. The SIT could find no evidence. I think that was sufficient. Per se, I believe in the Streisand effect. For people who don't understand social media, somebody took the photographs of coastal California, 12,000 photographs, one picture of Barbara Streisand house. She filed a case to ban it. Only 6 people had downloaded that picture. 4 lakh people ended up downloading the picture. So bans do not work. So I don't agree with bans on that ground also. I don't agree with blocking on that ground also. Of course, BBC has written or made a documentary which is completely biased, completely full of holes, and is relying on people who have been disproved in forum after forum, investigation after investigation. But if the government wants to ban it because it has certain reasons to, I don't see how it will be effective. We should have just taken it as a garbage, which BBC piece was, pure unadulterated garbage.
Well, Ishkan Bhandari, I don't want to give these people an alibi by suggesting they're lunatics. You know, insanity is claimed as a defense in some of the most serious cases, and people get away by suggesting that they lost it at that particular moment. I don't, because viewers, there is a diabolical plot here. And I'm not saying it, the Supreme Court has said it. You know what it said about 3 individuals. The same 3 individuals who are cited in this BBC documentary as speaking the gospel truth. Am I right or wrong, Rahul Ishwar? Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely, you're spot on. See, there are 2 or 3 issues with what BBC has done. With due respect to BBC, it appears to almost to be a hit job. BBC is a world-respected media organization. But having said that, this appears to be some sort of a hit job, which demeans and which diminishes the stature of Indian judiciary, Indian system. And I'm proud that Anil K. Antony is one of my friends, who is the son of the former defense minister, who came out. He's holding some post in the Congress. Even people like him came out and said this is undermining our sovereignty. I'm sad to say that many people in our opposition is not seeing it the way he is. He's a person who is well-read. The importance is, let us not, use the fall for the earlier British divide and rule policy that the colonial masters have always done. They have demeaned us. They have divided us. They are again fomenting trouble in the name of communities. They are again fomenting racial hatred. They are again fomenting their old playbook. So it is absolutely important that we don't fall for it, and we stand behind beyond politics. Had it happened to any other person. Beyond politics, this is demeaning India. And we should be loud and proud to say that this is wrong. And one very important thing which I respectfully differ with Antony sir, we should strongly voice our opinion in saying that this is wrong. We should not allow falsehood, misrepresentation and WhatsApp university stuff to get propagated and demean India in a larger sense, and especially in a time where India is becoming more and more of a Vishwaguru. We are leading G20, our nation is booming across the world, our economy is positively moving, culturally India is being a superpower house. So when they are doing such a kind of a bad hit job on our PM, it demeans India, and I'm very proud. Rishi Sunak rightly pointed out that he doesn't agree to this characterization. So who stands to benefit is a very important question that we need to ask. Who stands to benefit? And beyond politics, we should remember.
Anthony Kachachurian has also said that someone is pushing and peddling an agenda. There are vested interests at play. Political analyst Tehseen Poonawala joins us. Tehseen Poonawala, the Congress is settling scores, the BJP says, with Prime Minister Modi. You spent the better part of a decade trying to nail him for the Gujarat riots. You failed. Now you're relying on foreign propaganda over the word of the Supreme Court of India. Has it come to this? Has it come to this? The BBC is obviously a foreign organization, partly funded by the UK state. And Tehseen Poonawala, we all know, as the BJP has been saying, that the Congress has proclivities. It signs memorandums of understanding with foreign governments. What's happening here? Has the Congress entered into some diabolical conspiracy to defame India by besmirching Modi 20 years after an incident and a significant number of years after the Supreme Court has shut this case? Is that really what's happening, Tehseen Poonawalla? Forget about the ban for the moment. Questioning the motive. Why put a foreign fake organization, or foreign fakery as the Indian government calls it, over the Supreme Court's word?
Okay, good evening, Rahul, for the upteen time. Good evening to all the fellow panelists and to all your viewers. Just landed from the airport, so sorry I'm on the road. Just 3 or 4 quick points. Look, when this documentary came out before the government banned it, when it came to me, my initial reaction was the Gujarat cases have been done, dusted and settled by the Honorable Supreme Court. So I am of the opinion that once the Honorable Supreme Court has made a decision, at least for me, that is the law of the land. If anyone had any further evidences, the place to submit those evidences was to the Honorable Supreme Court. So I actually did not take this documentary seriously. The problem that has happened, Rahul, is, and I agree with what Ishkaran said, that this government jumped the gun and decided to ban something. Somebody in the government decided they have to be more loyal than the king and decided to ban this documentary. And you know, Rahul, more than anybody else, that bans never work. The minute you try to ban something, it will obviously spark a reaction and people will try and do what they want to do. Yes, the legitimate question is Congress has also banned things in the past, which I have said on your show. It is wrong. Freedom of speech, we would rather stand for excess freedom of speech than less freedom of speech. I would rather stand for erring on the side of freedom of speech rather than less. The question that you raise, which I don't think is legitimate, Rahul, with due respect to you, and you know I have a lot of respect to you, is what if there is violence? And Ishkaran will bear me out that in the sedition cases and in the 295 cases, a full bench of the Supreme Court has said the following, that you cannot ban something for the apprehension of violence unless violence actually takes place. This has been numerous examples, including saying Khalistan Zindabad, we want separate Khalistan, and the Supreme Court has come down and protected. And just allow me to finish, Ishkan, then you upload. So if you feel that there is going to be a legitimate concerns of violence, you need to take law and order steps in those local areas. You can't ban an entire documentary. I think that this documentary, in my opinion, I thought that this documentary may not have anything new to add. That was my personal opinion. I did not watch it. But now there is curiosity because the government is banned it. And one last point, for the Law Minister of India, who talks so much, he is now quoting the judiciary, for whom we have the highest respect, saying that they gave the Honorable Prime Minister clean chit. I agree. The judiciary gave the Prime Minister clean chit, and he's quoting the same judiciary against whom he's fighting and saying, look, the basic structure must go, the collegium system must go. So this is a government which is confused, which has no direction, and has ended up scoring a self-goal or shooting itself in the foot by trying to ban this documentary. It did not need to ban it, and believe me, nobody would have seen it. It got traction when you tried to ban it.
Tehseen Poonawalla believes that the Supreme Court's word is final. See, the one question you didn't answer, Tehseen, was the motivation then behind why your in-law, Rahul Gandhi, TP says, Tehseen Poonawalla, TP says that this is not worth watching. Put the Supreme Court's verdict as your guiding light. It has gone into everything that this particular documentary has raised and negated it. So if TP is right, why is RG, his in-law, playing this up and saying truth has surfaced? So what is the agenda? Tehseen Poonawalla, you need to tell us what. You're a Congress insider. You know. What is the agenda? Why is the Congress then pushing a documentary that you, TP, find absolutely outlandish?
Because if tomorrow, hypothetically, there is another government in Pan, they decide to ban Times Now, I would stand up for Times Now.
Don't get into the free speech aspect. No. I'm getting into the motivation. You're being clever. I've already said.
I'm not.
One second. Tehseen Poonawalla, I've already said, I'm not in favor of the ban. Right. But I'm asking you, sir. TP says nothing doing. This is an outlandish bit of fiction. The Supreme Court should be our guiding light. Then why is your in-law RG making such a big deal about this and saying this is the gospel truth? And you didn't answer my question. I said, is it because the Congress party has a propensity to sign up for foreign propaganda or with foreign governments? Is that the reason? I'm only asking you a simple question. I'm not asking you this question because I believe it. I'm asking you this question because The BJP has put it out there.
The BJP talks nonsense. It's a party that has no idea of
Did
how
you
to
not
govern
sign
this
an
country.
MOU with the Chinese Communist Party with Xi Jinping? Should I show you the pictures?
And may I reply to that? May I reply to that?
Yes, please.
Very humbly, I'll reply to that. I'll reply to that with an example and with an answer on your MOU. Was the most honorable Prime Minister of India, then Chief Minister of Gujarat, helping the terrorists by standing outside Taj and doing a press conference when our army was fighting in 26/11? Was the Prime Minister helping ISI when he called ISI into India? Sir, no,
again,
no, sir. Allow me to finish.
Again, no, one second. Again, your government...
I will never call anyone an anti-national.
Tehseen Poonawalla,
I think this business of calling people anti-nationals must stop.
This is not acceptable.
It must
Listen,
stop.
Tehseen Poonawalla, one second. Tehseen Poonawalla, 1 second. Is it not true that your government did the unprecedented or took the unprecedented step of lobbying foreign governments to deny a sovereign elected chief minister of this land visas? Is it not true, or am I lying?
No, those were individual MPs. It wasn't the government line. It was never the government line. It was individual MPs.
Ishkan Bhandari
you can hold those MPs to guilt, but there was never the government line.
Right. So the Congress party doesn't know what its MPs are up to. Ishkan Bhandari wants to respond.
It wasn't just Congress MPs. It was a number of MPs, and I think that was also wrong. Modi ji was our chief minister. You cannot do it. And I would stand up, and just like I stood up for the BJP, I'm standing up for the Congress.
Why was
Bans
it done?
don't happen.
So why
and
was
therefore
it
they're
done?
out of power.
So
and
why
therefore
was
they're
it
out
done?
of power.
So why was it
they're
done?
out of power. The people of India taught them a lesson.
So why was it done?
Rahul, today
because you have an agenda against Modi. You can't see him. You can't see him succeed, and you can't see India under him succeed. Admit it tonight. Come on. What's wrong?
Why would you mean India under him succeed? India succeeded when the nuclear deal was, India was given an exception and the BJP bought cash and stifled the nuclear deal. Was the BJP anti-India?
When Tehseen Poonawalla starts getting agitated, I know that I have been able to get him. I know I have been able to get him on certain questions. Ishkan Bhandari wants to respond to you.
Two short points. Just one. Tehseen, can I speak now? It's okay. Yeah, okay. Rahul, it appears to me that the sum of individual opinions in Congress might be greater than the strength of Congress. Digvijay Singh says something, that's individual opinion, but no action is taken on him. MPs want to stop the chief minister of an elected state from going to US. That is Mr. Modi. That is an individual opinion. So everything in Congress is an individual opinion, including Rahul Gandhi tearing the ordinance of the cabinet. Bhaiya, please tell us what is the collective Congress opinion on Balakot, what is the collective Congress opinion on 2002, what is the collective Congress opinion on any subject. We are sick of individual opinions. And one last point. I started by saying that the ban is silly, but of course the government has the power to ban it. Also 295A that Tehseen is talking about, that is at the stage of conviction. We see daily people get arrested under 295A by all governments. So that is the law of the land. Let us be clear about the law at least.
Okay, Ashutosh ji, 1 second.
But it is being misused.
Okay.
And banned.
Okay, two people have been very patient.
And we are celebrating constitutional days by using emergency pass to ban a documentary which nobody would have seen.
Okay,
Our
one
constitution
second.
gives us the right to say.
1 second. Don't get into the viewers. 1 second, Ishkan Bhandari, just 1 second. Let me step in here. Viewers, look. There is a deliberate attempt being made tonight to get into this ban question. We're not in the ban question. The reason that JNU leftist woke, self-styled woke students want to watch or propagate this is not because they're standing up for free speech. Because let me tell you about JNU, viewers. Shaila Rashid Shora, who was a prominent JNU student and a very prominent leftist leader in 2015. She was a student then. Baba Ramdev was invited for a speech. And she says, it is very unfortunate to know that JNU has allowed Baba Ramdev to be invited as a keynote speaker in the valedictory ceremony of the Congress of Vedanta. It does not befit the stature of an academic institution like JNU to have a person with such a questionable background to address an academic gathering. So viewers, this is not about free speech. All the JNU types who are all getting today excited about the prospect. You ask them, should satanic verses of Salman Rushdie be released? They will all bolt. They will run away. No. How can that? How can that be? You're insulting our whole community. They will scam in 30 seconds. Viewers, let me tell you, JNU doesn't respect free speech. Today's students have beat. Let's go to, yes. Ashutosh ji, now you're on the spotlight, okay? I want to ask you. A BBC documentary based its entire claims on some godforsaken report prepared by UK diplomats. Fair enough. This report is submitted to Jack Straw. Who is Jack Straw, viewers? Jack Straw used to represent the Blackburn constituency in the United Kingdom. He still has political ambitions. The constituency is known to have a Muslim demographic of almost 36%. That's the vote base. They also have a first past the post system in the UK. He gets 36% of these votes. He adds another 5-10% of those that are disaffected by the Tory party, and he becomes an MP tomorrow. This is what we are endorsing. Private interest and, of course, viewers, an interest in sparking communal violence. So, Ashutosh ji, are we going to end up endorsing something like this? And is that the real reason behind all of this?
Rahul, I'm not JNU type. I'm a JNUite. Point number 2. I always thought that India is a free country. We got freedom on 15th August 1947. Britishers have left. But if Britishers, after 75 of independence, when Amrit Kal is there, they are so powerful that they can shake the foundation of this country. And the Prime Minister, who gets only 37% vote share, has become so schizophrenic that he decides to block these videos. Then there has to be some reason behind it. Supreme Court has given a verdict. Supreme Court has given a verdict. Does the Prime Minister of the country believe that people will believe not Supreme Court but BBC? He thinks that the people in the country will not believe Supreme Court but believe BBC, and that is why this bill has been blocked. This is amazing. I'm really amused about it for the simple reason. The Prime Minister should have a confidence. He's the Prime Minister for the last 9 years. He should have a confidence in himself. He should have a confidence in his own government. He should have a confidence in his own media. He should have a confidence in his own society. He should have confidence in his own people. He doesn't seem to be a confident Prime Minister. That is why he has blocked this. And I'm again saying blocked because the picture has not been banned yet. The government has invoked the emergency provisions of the IT Act and only asked Google, YouTube and Twitter to take down block. It's not banned, so it's not illegal to watch this. I fail to understand. Here is a Prime Minister which is called to be the very powerful Prime Minister, the man who leads from the front and everything. He can't stand a BBC film. So what? A film has been made. Every information, everything that is told in this movie is known to the whole world. What's wrong in it?
Okay. Let me get Sushil Pandit to respond to you.
Is it not the Supreme Court of India has said that a Nero Bansi baja raha tha, jab Rome jal raha tha? The Supreme Court has said. It is NHRC at that point of time has done something. The Justice Peebles Savant has said something like this. Haren Pandya has said something like this. What is new? When the Supreme Court has given a verdict, there's a final solution. There cannot be any further argument.
Sushil Pandit, respond to Ashutosh.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Rahul,
and do tell Ashutosh that you were also a JNUite.
And good evening to all.
Not JNU type.
Well, I don't wear it on my sleeve. Sometimes conclusions were reached based an SIT by an eminent investigator, Raghavan, that there were amicus curiae, that there were courts, magistrates, evidences, all kinds of things were done in the last 20 years. This entire process has been done to death. There is nothing new in the BBC documentary, as Ashutosh says. I completely agree with it. But yet, BBC has succeeded. And I'll tell you where. The problem is, when you are not comfortable with a kind of image that has got stuck to you, and you are busy airbrushing that image with higher perversions to the secular concept than ever seen before. When you are busy trying to bend over backwards, trying to clean up that, the enemy figures that this is your soft underbelly. Enemy figures that this is where you can be put on a back foot. Your enemies have figured that today the weakest point in your psyche is to push you, is to nudge you on your secular credentials. And when they bring this up, irrespective of facts, irrespective of court judgments, irrespective of investigations and all kinds of processes you've been through, they manage to rattle you. And it is everybody knows that banning is counterproductive. Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses was probably the most discussed and the best known book of the previous century, primarily because of death threats and banning. Not comfortable with the image that you have garnered over the last 20 years, and that you've been busy airbrushing this image, and that is the place where you could be pinned. That is the place where you could be pushed, and that is the place where you could look nervous, look rattled, look uncomfortable. This is where BBC has succeeded, and this is where this entire storm that is gathered around this documentary seemed to be making an impact.
Okay,
this is the limited point.
Ishkan Bhandari wants to quickly come in. Yes.
Yeah, Rahul, just one thing on the lighter side. Me, you, Sushil ji, everybody said they are not in favor of ban. But I would want you to ask the other panelists, are they in the favor of ban on satanic verses? That is the difference. Because even when we discuss a thing, we speak objectively that bans are counterproductive. But would Ashutosh from JNU read satanic verses on air or on his platform? Will Tehseen read? Tehseen probably may. Yes, but would Ashutosh read it? Those are the questions we need to go on, and that is the hypocrisy in India. That is why a debate on free speech
in India
let Ashutosh is extremely difficult to have.
I've never read this book. I don't intend to read this book because I know this is a third-rate book. This is a third-rate book. Should not be banned. This is a third-rate book. This place is a garbage. It should just stay.
Ashutosh ji, you have been a journalist for many years, and I'm sure when you were a journalist, when you were on national TV, you would have stood up and said that satanic verses should not be banned. I'm sure you must have told the Congress.
I said that it should not be banned.
I said that on air. Wonderful. Okay.
Well, it should not be banned. Book reading. It has won so many awards. Do a literary book reading on your platform. It will be very nice to
be a part of that. Okay, it's a third-rate book. I will not read it. Similarly, BBC documentary, third-rate, but every third-rate we shouldn't read it. But if the other is third-rate, we should watch it. So it's okay. Anyhow, viewers, look, I'm not going down the ban rabbit hole because I am generally in agreement with all 6 panelists that you shouldn't be banning stuff. My problem is, viewers, simply this, that today we are at a crossroads where India is poised to take flight. For the first time, we've emerged from the detritus of a COVID epidemic, and we are today, viewers, the world's leading economy. There are people, and you know from the Cold War how these games work, viewers. There are people, there are vested interests that want to drag your country down. They want to besmirch this fine country's tolerant image. They want to tar it black with the coat of communalism. So no foreign business comes here. We become a pariah nation. Viewers, we have to be careful. And we have to pick the right side. I leave it at this, viewers.